Hi everyone, I'm Anthony from Fine and Country Northampton, and once again I'm joined by Stuart Hanlon of MDAR. He imports building control systems and all the little goodies that can control all sorts of things in beautiful homes and in commercial applications as well. So, hi Stuart, and
Hello,
today we're going to talk about HVAC.
Oh, one of my favourite subjects.
Heating, zone heating, what is it? Aircon and ventilation. I keep
HVAC,
forgetting.
heating, ventilation, air conditioning.
That's it, that's
HVAC.
it. That's the one. Okay, so tell me more.
Okay, let's talk about HVAC. Let's talk about the change in the Part P requirement for building regulations in 2019. Let's get the nitty-gritty out of the way. Up until the end of 2019, Part P just required 2 separate zones of heating, and that was achievable by fitting those nasty TRVs to radiators. They're not efficient, you can't schedule them, and they work kind of ish. There's battery controlled ones, but I will never voluntarily install a battery controlled device ever.
Right.
So Part P changed in 2019. It now calls for zoned heating control that is electromechanically controlled, which means you can no longer fit wax TRVs. It's just not possible. So by making them electromechanically controlled, it means the software can schedule them down to 15-minute blocks if you really want. So you can be far more energy efficient by profiling your occupancy. So for example, if you know you're only going to be using your master bedroom overnight, then we'll have an overnight temperature. We'll have it raised to a warmer temperature just before wake up time so that it naturally encourages your body to wake. And then an hour after your morning alarm's gone off, there's no need to heat that room anymore. So let's knock it back to either nighttime or an off state. And then you can expand that so the hallway, the staircase, doesn't need to be heated overnight. It could be dropped to a standby temperature. And again, just before wake up time, we can have that lift to a much better temperature. And then you can expand that more and more and more across the whole room. If you know you're using predominantly 6 rooms of your house, then we'll work out a scheduling for that. And that's what we'll do. I've got customers that have an overarching profile for the entire house, and then they have granular control over each room on an ad hoc basis that they can interact with. They can go into the calendar and they can set their own times. So there's a lady that's leaping to mind who she has a beautiful open plan kitchen diner, and week to week she knows roughly what she's doing, but she has special occasions where her friends will stay for lunch, so she'll quickly access the calendar and drop in a schedule when she knows an hour before they arrive up until when they're kind of due to leave-ish. She'll put the heating on. And if she's looking after her grandchildren, again, she'll just drop in and say, well, the kids are going to be here for a couple of hours. They're going to be running around. We don't need it to be that warm, so let's knock the heating back while they're here, because the last thing you want is an overheated child.
Right. That's pretty clever stuff.
It's pretty good, and it works really well when people engage with it more. They get much better savings and much better control. There's some customers that just absolutely do not want to engage with any software at all, and they simply want an AI system that learns, well, last Wednesday you were in the house between 11 and 3 in the afternoon, so we'll put the heating on, but on Tuesday and Thursday you're not, so it won't be on.
I can see that, obviously, as properties get bigger, the savings and the benefits increase.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
But it seems to be such a smart system. For example, you're away, it's winter, you can set the system to be off, but do not allow the house to freeze. So it would kick in when the temperature drops below 4 degrees, for example, just to stop the house going down to 0 or something like that.
Yeah, whatever your antifreeze profile is, that's what we do. Yes, we put it into holiday mode. We can trigger some virtual occupancy lighting, but essentially the aircon's absolutely switched off, and the heating only comes on, as you say, when it drops below a minimum threshold. And then you're on holiday, you've decided, yes, today we're definitely going to come home. So you just dial into your house and go, yep, I'm coming home. And it'll register the geolocation on your phone, or simply switch on at a point in time, and it'll be nice and warm when you get home.
I would imagine, though, as the properties get larger, and when you go into commercial situations where you've got buildings with 50 or 100 different offices that all could be occupied or not, as the case may be. Have you had anything like that?
Oh, we have. There's a fabulous project we're working on in Eindhoven in Holland, where they've got 250 offices that are all independently leased out, and they've got a concept called green with a payback, and the landlord was obviously facing some pretty horrendous energy bills, and the heating was on from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, regardless of whose office was occupied. What they've got with this system now is that the users are in charge of their own environment. So if one tenant likes it cooler, they can dial in and change it. If one tenant likes it warmer, they can dial in and change it. And if, for example, if they know they have an off-site meeting, they're not going to be in until lunchtime, if they don't make an effort to dial in and say they are not going to be until 12, it won't put the heating on until 11:30. But more importantly, it allocates green points to all the occupants that interact with the software. And at the end of each month, it gives a report to the landlord, and it highlights which users have interacted the most and have earned the most green points. And those tenants are then rewarded with something that's going on in the town. It might be tickets to an event, it might be a use of an electric car for the weekend. There are all sorts of incentives available. But what's amazing from the landlord's point of view is, yes, there was a premium to install this stuff, and they were going to amortise the cost over 10 years. Because of the savings they made, purely on the energy, they've managed to pay back the entire investment in 2.5 years by saving approximately €3.20 for every office, every day, that the heating would otherwise have been on.
Well, I mean, I just quickly thought in my head, you said 250 offices, 12 hours a day, 6 till 6 in the morning. So that's, if you want to, for pretty crudely, 3,000 heating hours per day.
Yeah, and that's the way to think of it. Yes, absolutely. So if you can get a couple of people to knock back a couple of hours each, that's an amazing saving.
It can add up quite
very,
quickly.
very quickly. Yes.
Very quickly. Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. And air conditioning.
Okay, air conditioning. Of course, that comes within the HVAC remit. So yes, what we can have is, are you familiar with the fan coil units you see in a lot of hotels and things? You can get dual coil fan coil units, which have a cooling system and a heating system.
Yes.
And with a properly configured HVAC control system, it will automatically switch from heating to cooling. So it'll trigger the chiller and it'll open the valve for that particular fan coil unit, and it'll set the speed of the fan within that one zone.
What sort of heating units can you control with this system?
That's a really interesting question, because obviously there's a big push at the moment to get away from gas and fossil fuels. So the Velbus system that I have basically controls the heat source, and we switch on or off the heat source. And as far as the Velbus system's concerned, it doesn't really care what the heat source is. So that opens us right up. We can switch on and off gas. We can switch on and off air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps. We can trigger pellet burners to generate heat. All we're doing is we're asking for that heat source to be switched on, and then we'll deal with the routing throughout the system. So really, other than something that requires physical effort to fuel it, we can control any heat source.
Well, I have read that the government is aiming to start ripping out gas boilers soon,
Indeed.
within 10 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So as we change to other systems, then there's going to be a greater need to control, or maybe a greater opportunity to control it.
Yes.
Rather than the standard wet system with gas that we have now. As we change
Well,
to
don't
different
get
systems.
confused. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why you can't simply replace the gas boiler with a pellet boiler. It's the same hot and flow and return of the heating system, and on the manifolds and the flow control downstream, that remains exactly the same. All you're doing is changing the heat source. That may require a bit more plumbing, depends on where the two are going to be located, but the actual flow around the property doesn't change. And as far as the Velbus building control is concerned, it is still only asking for heat from a heat source.
Right. And air conditioning.
The really nice thing about the Velbus stuff is they are HVAC thermostats, not heating thermostats, and they will never allow both modes to be on at the same time. So the Velbus thermostat will either call for heat and route that flow around the property, or it'll call for cooling and route the cooling around the property. And the real advantage of that is you will never have a situation where you're sat next to a roaring radiator at full power and sitting underneath a cooler unit that's trying to compensate for the extra heat.
Right.
Because the thermostat's clever enough to know that it's either above your target or below the target.
That is very, very smart. Very smart.
And if you put a window sensor in,
Yes.
if you open the window, it'll shut down all of them.
Oh, wow. And can Of course it can. It can control opening and closing the windows as well.
If you want to put that in, yes, absolutely.
You know, I was just looking that way, and I think everybody's really excited about this. Really, really excited. I mean, they're all reaching for the coffee and the tea and biscuits now, and they're thinking, this is wonderful stuff.
Yes.
And we haven't even started.
No, not even scratched the top of the
We haven't even. You better get your notebooks and pens out for the next one, because we're going to go in depth. I think I need to just see just how much knowledge you've got about this stuff.
Oh dear.
Yes, I think so. I think we'll cover another topic another time. I think this will do for today, because there's only so much excitement people can take one day. So thank you for joining me, Stuart. And that's all for today. If you're interested in contacting Stuart at MDAR to find out more, his details will be in the links below. I'm Anthony from Fine & Country, Northampton. Once again, as always, if you're interested in buying, selling, investing or renovating, please feel free to contact me anytime on the details below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.